There seems to be an obsession right now by the media with President Trump's comments that supposedly suggested that people might want to inject themselves with cleaning materials. You know, Lysol or bleach or something, disinfectant. And so the media has been just apoplectic over this, saying, oh my gosh, poison control calls are up. Here's a sample of CNN Cut 8 just yesterday and how President Trump refused to take responsibility for this.
What do you make of the president saying that that he can't imagine it? He can't imagine. I'm sure on one level he can't, but he is the one who suggested that people somehow inject themselves with these cleaners. So he suggested it, and people did it, and he's shocked.
Right. Look, he's disowning any responsibility for it, which shouldn't be shocking to any of us. But it's remarkable because, of course, he knows the answer to the question. The answer to the question is, yeah, I know what happened. Yeah, it's because I spoke last Thursday. And what I said was suggest to people that perhaps ingesting disinfectant might help cure coronavirus in some way, shape, or form. So he does know the answer to it.
He's disowning any responsibility. How dare he? He said you should inject yourselves with disinfectant. And now the president refuses to accept responsibility for telling people they should, and they did it. Well, first of all, that's not what the president said. He didn't actually say you should go ahead and inject yourself with disinfectant at home. He floated an idea. He shouldn't have done it. But he floated an idea that was like, well, this is something you're looking into, right? And the idea, look, first of all, the media and the left-wing Democrats who, like Governor Whitmer of Michigan, who are saying that calls to poison control centers went up because President Trump said this, they're basically saying the American people are morons. They are stupid. They can't tell an idea being tossed about from an actual suggestion, and that they are actually, if it is a suggestion, actually just taking the suggestion and running with it. First of all, they're belittling the intelligence of the American people. Let's just start right there. But that's only a piece of the puzzle. The other piece is that the idea that President Trump said this and people are acting accordingly is patently absurd. There is a great piece. Look, last night, I was thinking about this. I saw this clip of CNN. And last night I was thinking, you know, gosh, there's got to be some evidence out there to show that perhaps the reason that poison control calls are spiking is because, I don't know, people are using disinfectant more consistently, regularly at their houses, especially if they have kids. We don't know the nature of these calls. We don't know the specifics of, are there kids in the home and they're concerned about kids? We don't know any of that information. So I wanted to do a little digging. What might we be able to tell from this increase in calls from the data to suggest either that it's a result of President Trump saying this, or it's the result of people using disinfectant, Lysol and others, Clorox, bleach, more often because they're cleaning their homes more often because they're stuck at home more often. And lo and behold, I found a great piece a few days ago from Elizabeth Nolan Brown at Reason, entitled, "No, Poison Control Calls Aren't Suddenly Spiking After Trump's Disinfectant Comments," which, by the way, just vindicates my ability to reason through this and look and say, you know, maybe those people at CNN are themselves being the morons here, drawing conclusions without actually looking at the data. So what Elizabeth Nolan Brown points out is that, look, a story out of Kentucky that's being shared as evidence that people have been consuming household cleaners following Trump's Thursday statement is actually about calls to Kentucky poison control centers in March. Poison control centers around the country, including here in Kentucky, are seeing a spike in calls related to COVID-19. says WDRB.com story. Ashley Webb, director of the Kentucky Poison Control Center, told the outlet that just in March, we saw about a 30% increase in hand sanitizer exposures and about a 50% increase in household cleaners. A similar spike, Elizabeth Nolan Brown continues, in calls to poison control centers has been seen in many states. But these boosts all started in March as people began using more household disinfectants to try and stave off the new coronavirus, and not just last week. Michigan reported, quote, a 9% increase in calls for accidental poisoning from home cleaning supplies in March, according to ABC 57. In Maryland, over the past 6 weeks, quote, calls for toxic exposure to hand sanitizers have nearly doubled since the same time in 2018, according to Fox 5 Baltimore. In addition, the Maryland Control Center has had 95 calls for bleach exposure, more than double last year's 46 calls in the same period. There's more from Illinois. 2 people had inappropriate exposure to disinfectants after President Trump's COVID-19 briefing Thursday, according to WCIA.com on Friday. But a spokesperson for Illinois Poison Control told WCIA that this wasn't unusual and calls had been up 36% since the COVID-19 pandemic start, often related to people doing things like trying to wash produce with cleaners that are toxic for people to ingest. Shocker! People have been doing this more often over the course of the last couple of months, and there's been an uptick in calls. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, 28,158 people called U.S. poison control centers about possible exposure to household cleaners in March 2020, compared to 25,021 in March 2019. The number of calls about possible exposure to disinfectants went from 12,801 in March 2019 to 17,392 in March 2020. Folks, that is a noticeable increase well before President Trump floated his idea about possible disinfectant injection type of a situation. Floated this idea, hey, you're looking at it, right? That's nonsense for the media. Of course he shouldn't take responsibility. I didn't play the clip because I didn't think it was worth hearing President Trump say, deny any responsibility or not even take responsibility. I don't even think it was really a denial of responsibility. It was just not taking responsibility for it because it was unnecessary. The media, in their zest and zeal to diminish President Trump in every which way they possibly can, they're going after the president on something ridiculous. This is their way of keeping his disinfectant floating of an idea last Thursday in the discussion. Because they don't want to get rid of it. They want to keep putting out this impression that President Trump is asleep at the wheel, that he's a moron, that he doesn't know what to do as president of the United States, and he doesn't understand science at all. Which is nonsensical, by the way, because for weeks and weeks he has been now urging states to continue with shutdowns. He's even condemned Georgia deciding to reopen yesterday because of Governor Brian Kemp's end of his stay-at-home order. These are not things from a guy who's not listening to his advisors. But they want to find any excuse to perpetuate that narrative, and here and now, that's the way in which they're perpetuating the narrative, is to say poison control centers are getting a spike in calls. Thanks for watching this clip of Jimmy at the Crossroads. Don't miss more engaging, intelligent talk. Subscribe today to the Jimmy at the Crossroads YouTube channel. You do not want to miss our live show. Thanks for your support.
I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of no sense. Yeah.